Fellow Toastmasters, good evening everyone. Welcome to the 28th meeting and 10th online meeting of this club. I'm Vamshi and today I'll be the SAA for this meet. Today's theme is the magical world of movies. Movies. Movies gives me inspiration, relaxation, and it acts like a stress buster for me. And generally people love to listen to music while working in parallel, but I'm slightly different. I'd like to watch movies in parallel, or at least I'd like to play movie in the background and do my work in parallel. This is something different for me. And I always used to think in childhood, probably at the age of 5, I always think that actors are really acting behind the screen and doing the fights and action sequences. But then it took me some time, probably at the age of 8 to 10, I realized, okay, there is actually film and it's actually projected at a very big white screen. So let me ask some questions to all of you here. How many of you bunked office to watch a movie? Good. Okay. How many of you cheated your parents to watch a movie? Okay. How many of you watched back-to-back movies in a theater, or 3 movies continuously in a theater? Yeah, so lots of movie fans. One question related to me. How many movies I will watch per week? Any idea? Okay, not in theaters, but in laptop or anything. 5, okay. Yeah, something around 7 to 8. That's good. Okay, lots of movie fans. Okay, I would like to lay down some of the rules for this best movie experience, which is going to happen for next 1 hour. Please switch off your mobiles and just stare at the white Zoom screen in front of in front of the laptop. Please avoid talking on topics related to sex, religion, and politics. Please be on mute unless you are speaking, and applaud after every scene. And I want to end with one of the movie dialogue. Just like in films, in our life too, there is always a happy ending. And if the ending is not happy, then it's not a real end. Picture abhi baki hai mere dost. Now I'll be handing over to the presiding officer, Toastmaster Abhijit ko.
Thank you, Toastmaster Vamshi. I think you've set the perfect possible base for this magical meeting to start. I and my mentor were taking a walk in downtown Denver. I was just not able to keep up with the work pressure and I was really close to quitting my job. That's when my mentor told me. He said, Abhijit, 97% of the people who quit too soon end up getting employed by the other 3% who didn't quit. I was so mesmerized by this thought that I had lost attention to where I was going. And right then, bam, a car speeding and hit me head on. And I was flying through the air. And before I could fall on the ground, I just woke up from the bed. I felt so suffocated by what I had just seen. I quickly went out to my balcony. There was a lot of good air because it was raining cats and dogs. It was 2 a.m. at night, and I was just so relieved that I had not been hit by a speeding car. I just looked to my right, and right then there was a gust of wind which was so strong that it lifted me up from my balcony on the 6th floor and plunged me down onto the ground. I was falling for a long, long time, and this time I got up even with a bigger jolt from my bed. This time I did something different. I deliberately tried to fall down from the bed. And I fell. And that was such a relief because now I knew I was not in a dream. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The story I just narrated has a very famous dialogue from a movie and has essence from a different movie altogether. Can anybody guess both the movies?
Is Inception involved somewhere? Dream inside a dream?
Yep, you got the theme there. There was a dialogue. Yes. Inception is one movie. And the dialogue that I said mentioned about 97% of people is from a famous movie. Anybody remembers that one? Okay, all right. Without taking too much time, Mazahir mentioned Inception. Yes, that is right. One of the movies, the Dream in a Dream sequence was from there. The dialogue was from The Wolf of Wall Street. So I don't know if many have seen that, but definitely filled with really awesome dialogues. Well, we don't have a lot of guests to welcome today because the guests that we have are more like our club members who've been here for a while. So I will welcome them yet again in our meeting, but I won't really tell them to come here and give their introduction because we all know them pretty well. Without taking any more time, I want to introduce to all of you the chief narrator for the magical session of movies today. Please welcome Toastmaster Arjun, who is the TMoD.
Thank you, Presiding Officer Abhijit, for your lovely introduction. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. This is an extract from As You Like It by William Shakespeare. But in this age, the world is more of a cinematic universe, where everyone wants to be the Tony Stark of their story. Good afternoon, orators in the cloud. Welcome to our 28th Toastmasters meeting. The reason I chose the theme movies is because they have a lot of relevance in our lives. The fact that new releases are on hold makes us feel the void. I am not a big fanatic, but everybody can find themselves in a situation which involves movies. You can either go out with friends, your spouse, or you can chill at home with Netflix, but you do end up watching something and have an experience created by its content or the environment around you. For example, when I had gone for a movie with someone in first year of college, I ended up concentrating on the movie's family drama more than paying attention to her. And that issue was brought up in intermission. I realized my mistake and was taught a lesson, but I'm not going to share what I learned during that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask someone to come on the stage who will help us learn our current speaking prowess in this meeting. He is going to be the general evaluator. Let me tell you something about him. A general evaluator believes that the content of a movie should be very realistic. He does not believe in DC versus Marvel. Basically, he does not have any interest in heroes. But I totally agree with him because you don't need a superhero to put a smile on your face. Let's welcome our general evaluator of the day, Toastmaster Bhargav.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun, for that introduction. When people first asked me the question, Marvel or DC, I didn't understand the context. I didn't know what Marvel was and I didn't know what DC was. At the first thought, I thought DC might be Deccan Charges. It was an IPL team long ago. And I thought Marvel was a new team. So they might be asking me about, my opinion on these two teams. I thought Marvel might be Mumbai Marvels or something. So yeah, that was my story about, superhero movies and all. I never liked superhero movies. In fact, the only superhero movie I ever watched was Krish. And even I didn't like that. And yeah, so if this was a movie, I'm going to be the reviewer for the movie. I always go to movies. Before I go to movie, I always go and watch reviews because I can't stand a movie which is like really pathetic. I just go and sleep in the theater. And me along with my team of tag members are gonna evaluate this movie called Toastmasters Meeting. My first evaluator is a timer. A timer is a big time follower of Salman Khan, not because of his acting skills, but because of his charisma, which instantly triggers the secret yearning of millions of people to become hero. It seems the only time he saw people in the US standing up in a theater and dancing was in a Salman Khan movie. Let's invite onto the screen Toastmaster Abhijit, who's going to be their timer for today.
Thank you, Toastmaster Bhargav, the general evaluator. So I've tried to do a little bit different with this role today, and I hope it refreshes this role a little bit. So as you can see, I am the chief timekeeper for Big Ben. You can see it in the background. hopefully anybody who can see that and now knows what that shining object is at my background will continue to be continue to remember that I'm the timer for today. Other than that, I will also use a few different tactics to convey the time today. We have an icebreaker speech by Toastmaster Ram. That's going to be a 4 to 6 minute speech. 4 would be the green, the minimum allotted time. 5 would be amber, which is like the sweet spot, and 6 would be the maximum time allotted. Similarly, for the second speech, it's the usual 5 to 7 minutes, 5 green, 6 amber, and 7 red. We have table topics. We'll have 1 to 2 minute speeches. 1 minute it would be the green, 1:30 would be amber, and 2 would be red. Finally, for evaluation, it's 2 to 3 minutes, 2, 2:30, and 3. Now, how will I show these timing cards is something that I want to show. So the moment you see you're already at green, my background will change to this. So I would really request all the speakers for the day to pin the timer screen along with whatever mode you're using, so that you're continuously reminded to take a look at the timer cards. And then once you go to amber, my screen will turn into amber. And finally, when it be red, it will stay red, and I will change that once you are done with your speech. Just a quick check. Everybody was able to see the cards at the background really well. And okay, I got a thumbs up from Ram. All right, perfect. All right, with that, I will hand it over back to Toastmaster Bhargav, who's the GE. All the best to the speakers.
Thank you, Toastmaster Abhijit. Our next member of the tag team is the AhCounter. Our AhCounter's favorite movie is Pirates of the Caribbean, it seems. It seems after he watched the movie for the first time, the first part, he went and learned swimming because he thought that if at all he gets to venture into the sea and experience some adventure, he wouldn't want to, be caught off with not knowing swimming. So let's welcome onto the screen Toastmaster Rahul, who is the AhCounter for today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Bhargav, for the introduction. And yes, Pirates of Caribbean is one of my favorite movies of all time. There is so much travel and adventure in that movie, and it's so immersive. It's such a great experience to watch it. Also, if you guys have watched the movie, you guys might have noticed that it's one of the very few movies where the protagonist, in this case, Captain Jack Sparrow, uses a lot of and still manages to make a strong impression. Well, I'm not suggesting that we go ahead and use a lot of and like him, unless you want to come across as a drunk pirate. Now, in my role as the AhCounter today, I will keep count of the number of unnecessary sound, filler words, or repetitive words that you use, and I will come back at the end to give the report. Over to General Evaluator, Toastmaster Bhargav.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rahul. The Grammarian for today's session is, it seems, a fan of Bollywood. She can watch any kind of movie on big screen, but she's old-fashioned in a way that she doesn't like on TV or Netflix. It seems she never watches the review before, looks into the reviews before going to watch a movie. She's really a daredevil. We'll have to agree upon that. She likes to review it herself, it seems. I'd like to call upon to the stage Toastmaster Rohini from the ANZ Toastmasters Club, who's going to review our grammar today.
Thank you, Toastmaster Bhargav. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, as a grammarian of this entire movie that we are all part of, I'm going to be keeping a track of all the good usages and, most importantly, bring to everyone's notice not so very good usage, so as to improve in the English language. See, I strongly believe that movies has always augmented a beautiful language. It's given us, in Bollywood, it's given us Tapori Hindi. And in fact, Hindi in itself has beautified because of the culmination of Urdu and Hindi. Likewise, there are so many other languages which has got promoted because of movies. My mother tongue Konkani was completely lost after Portuguese invasion, and movies has given us one such opportunity to bring that. So, and having said that, I love English more than Portuguese and Konkani. So that's why I always end up taking grammarian role. So I've told you what my objective is. And keeping the theme of movies in today's theme as movie, I have come up with the word of the day, theatrical. Now, as a noun form, it also means relating to actor. And in the adjective form, it could be something that one does with their expression. To cite an example, it would be, Ruhi's expressions are quite theatrical. The master built a separate colony for all the upcoming theatricals. Okay, so I will leave the note in the chat. I will leave a note on the word of the day in the chat, and please try and use this word. And whenever someone uses this, let's all encourage them by applauding. So, and I will present my report at the end of the meeting. And over to you, Toastmaster Bhargav.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rohini. Now I would like to pass on the baton to Toastmaster Arjun, the TMoD for today's session.
Lights, camera, action. Well, I had to do that to begin the first scene of the day, which is the prepared speeches. When my 9th standard English teacher left our school, she took us to watch Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara and treated the whole class for a lunch at McDonald's. I was really happy to know that our first speech evaluator also shares the same love for ZNMD, as she saw it with her 11th standard classmates after joining a new school. She believes it's the perfect movie to make new bonds and strengthen friendships. Please welcome our first speech evaluator, Toastmaster Shreya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun, for reminding me of some good old days. I still remember that day quite clearly. It was the first time that I was watching a movie without any parental guidance. And I also remember the scene where Hrithik Roshan came first. He's zooming across the office floor, talking business on a call, sounding very important. And I think all of us, the whole theater just went wild shouting for him. It was a nice day, and I think it was a bunch of strangers watching it together, and that just kind of bonded us forever, and we are still friends to this day. So I think movies have a nice way of connecting people together, either through love or maybe even hate for the movie. Coming back to today, I am the evaluator for Toastmaster Ram's first speech, The Icebreaker. The purpose of the speech is to introduce oneself to the club and also to understand the basic structure of a speech. I will be looking for the content and the structure of the speech, the audience engagement, as well as the vocal variety of the speech. Good luck to all the speakers today. Back to you, TMoD.
Thank you, Shreya, for explaining us the guidelines. Our first speaker of the day hasn't watched many movies of late, but he does have a favorite genre, which is humor. This claim is strongly backed by the fact that his favorite artist is Charlie Chaplin. So please welcome our first speaker and his speech, Toastmaster Ram. Hello, Toastmaster Ram.
How do you introduce yourself to a group of people? Each of who knows you to a different degree. Well, hello. In the 13th century, Nasruddin Hoxha, a philosopher and a satirist, lived in Turkey. He found himself in a predicament not very different than mine. He was asked to deliver a speech and introduce himself. He walked up to the audience and asked, "How many of you know what I'm going to talk about?" Obviously, no one did. So he said, "If you don't know what I'm going to talk about, how can you understand it?" And he went away. He was persuaded to come back. He asked his question again. This time, the audience tried a trick. They shouted back, "We know, we know." Nasruddin was unruffled. He said, "If you already know what I'm going to talk about, why should I talk about it? My talk will be superfluous." He slithered away theatrically. The organizers persuaded him to return again. His tone and demeanor indignant, he exclaimed, "For the last time, how many of you know what I'm going to talk about?" You can guess the answer. Some yelled, "We know." Others said, "We don't know." You can guess at his answer. He said, "Those of you who know, tell those who don't know." I'd like to use the structure in that anecdote I just narrated for the rest of my introduction. I'll share information that no one knows about me, some information that some of you may know about me, and information that everybody knows about me, in that order. I don't ever remember being bored. I must have pursued at least 20 different hobbies. One of the arcane ones was to collect folk songs from different world languages. Whenever I listened to a new song, I became obsessed with trying to find the origins of that song. To feed this obsession, I had to learn about recording techniques and storage mechanisms. Just as an FYI, audio equipment is expensive and storage formats are ephemeral. While I was getting better at improving my recording technique, the storage industry moved on. Tapes gave way to optical media and CDs and DVDs to flash-based and eventually cloud-based storage. File format evolution did not help me and was not kind to me either. With the advent of different compression techniques, I realized the time and costs associated with my hobby were more than I had bargained for. I hung on until it became a chore to move my archives to newer and newer storage devices. In the last few weeks, thanks to COVID, I got a chance to look at my archives. Sadly, I discarded several cartons of tapes, discs, and memories. Some of you know or may know that I worked as a software engineer in the past. Some projects that I worked on were traditional switching routing, and others were more esoteric. In our textbooks, we've always read about the 7-layer OSI stack. Some of you may know that there are implementations of the OSI stack. I worked on one such, the presentation layer protocol called Manufacturing Message Specification. The protocol was a very formal way of packing data and state to program and monitor industrial robots. This protocol was deployed in the Opel car factory in Germany, in which there were serious issues with downtime due to memory leaks. In the absence of code documentation, I struggled for at least 6 months fixing dozens of memory leaks, relying entirely on my intuition and instrumentation. I saw for firsthand how poor documentation coupled with the absence of committed resources to maintain code can lead to customer satisfaction issues. One of India's first forays into the telecom industry was through a company called CDOT. The company was trying to build mobile telephone systems so that rural reach in India was higher from a telecom perspective. This system involved a mini truck, a dish antenna to transmit and receive, a driver of the truck, obviously, and an operator of the telephone system. It also had that old analog dial phone. You remember the one that is big, clunky, and you go dialing? That was it. I got to develop the billing module for the mobile telephone system. It involved writing microcontroller code and designing analog and digital circuitry. All of this on a PCB. Switching gears, I'm going to tell you something that most likely everyone knows about me. If not directly, I'm sure by inference or even experientially. Like most people in this meeting, I was born in India in the 20th century. I have one father, one mother, one sibling, one wife, one son. In my childhood, I was good on some days, bad on others. And if you ask my parents, they'll tell you that when I was being bad, I was really good. I went to school, I went to college. I did well in school sometimes, not so good at other times. I made friends, some good, some not so good. As time passed, I got a job. I hopped across jobs, sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong ones, and sometimes for no reason at all. I'm sure all of you will identify with some of what I said, and some of you will identify with all that I said. Facts bear this out. Biologically, 99% of our DNA is the same, which means there are more similarities than there are differences. To conclude, this is my icebreaker, your icebreaker, our, well, hello, thank you.
Thank you, Ram, for the wonderful layered speech. In fact, I found the layers more interesting than the OSI layers. So now, let me tell you something about our second evaluator. He believes that movies that end with a cliffhanger are not his type. Unless there is a closure, he does not like to watch such movies. He believes that even if there's a cliffhanger, there should be a sequel the following year. And with this, I would like to welcome our second speech evaluator, Toastmaster Sumedh.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun. There is this movie called the Mulholland Drive. How many of you have ever heard of it? So I thought, I have known about this movie for a very long time. Never understood it. It is bizarre, labyrinthine, it is detached, aloof, and yet somehow I always seem to enjoy it. The classical theoretical experience. The same can be said about our next speaker, Toastmaster Akshaya, who is going to give a L2P1 speech. The purpose of this speech is for Akshaya to identify and sharpen her primary communication style. In her endeavor to do so, I will try helping her by providing feedback so as to help her hone her skill sets furthermore. All the very best, Akshaya. Over to you, TMoD. Thanks.
Thank you, Sumedh. Our second speaker told me that a movie's plot cannot be linguistically bound. She once went for a movie of a different language, but with simple demands that there should be good popcorn and the actor should be vitamin A, meaning good for the eyes. Well, Anne Hathaway is omega-3 for me, good for the heart, but coming back, she went for it and became emotionally invested in the story. Please welcome our second speaker of the day, Toastmaster Akshaya. Four of us, Toastmaster Akshaya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun. I would like the timer of the day to not count this disclaimer. So a small disclaimer I would like to throw to everybody that the first 4 to 5 minutes of my speech, you can be completely confused and puzzled. What is she trying to say? So let's get started from there. As the ball of fire straight up on the skies forcefully fought for attention from the sleepy world locked in its dreams and nightmares, the sound of Morgan's coffee machine, which has been fabulously successful in flaunting his early bird rising qualities to the world for almost 34 years in a row, was resounding. The streets were pristine, and Morgan got up from his bed, patted his old little buddy, poured himself a morning punch, and sat down to look at the early newspaper. He decided to walk to his wardrobe and tried to pick himself a blazer, have a meet and greet with the blazer because he has been known for his signature sweatshirts. But he decided, let me drop off the side in my signature sweatshirt and not try something new when it is all about to end. His insecure mind walked him with the aid of memories, mistakes, murders, and the money, which bought him a farm far away from the chaos of the city, which he was dreaming to visit within a week. He set his foot on the street, the familiar streets, and there was a neatly tucked letter in his pocket, and he would like to believe that it was the most passionately written letter of his life. The familiarity of the street was rather making him dull. He was afraid that he might forget that familiarity someday. He took quick steps, walked straight to his office, opened the door of director's office, landed that envelope right on the table. It read, Morgan signing off. He walked out of the cabin, entered into his, sat down on his chair, and on his table was another neatly wrapped letter which read, Morgan, for you. He opened that letter and it said, for the first time in your 40-year illustrious career, you are going to have a cabin mate. You're going to welcome your heart and open up your cabin to this new guy from Alaska who has been reassigned to this office. Detective Morgan, it's time for you to welcome this guy. After a few hours, Morgan found himself shaking hands with the guy, gasping for breath and loathing about the poorly built city, but determined to take an assignment after assignment and make his mark. The awkward silence which started to prevail in the room after a few minutes, was broken when a phone rang. A fat boy had given up on life far away from the city in the shack, and the police had been called for the same. Detective Morgan and Mills were going to be on duty, and they decided to head off. Well, tons of mayonnaise and Nutella stacked all over the house. But in the midst of it all, a corpse, a man who has ate himself to death, was lying right there. For a minute, if you were thinking, Akshaya, whoa, stacks of mayonnaise and Nutella, we were thinking it could be you. But let me tell you, Dosa people don't give up on life. Mayonnaise and Nutella people may. Let's see what happens. So this man was right in the middle of his house and he's lifeless. It is almost sure that he is dead. And Mills was convinced that this is an open and shut suicide. He was rotting in depths, and this man could not make up for his life, and he decided to eat himself to death. But Morgan was not sure. He decided to take this topic to his wine room and think it out loud. Within a few minutes, the police get another call. Eric Golding, the leading attorney of the city, has been murdered in his private office. He has been bled to death, and the murderer had stained the wall of his office with his own blood, and in letters of gold and blood, the wall proudly declared loudly, "Help me," and there were stains of hands. Mills was rather excited about this murder because he decided that it was the time to take the cake. Eric Golding had a life shrouded in controversies, and this was going to be an easy chase to trickle down to the guy who is behind these crime scenes. But the police decided to call the print lab and track the print and decide to find the guy who was behind the print. Within no time, the police force and the print lab found that the handprint on the wall matched with a guy called Theodore who lives in an apartment down the street. The police and Mills were convinced that this is the end of the game and it's going to be Mills hereafter. Morgan, it's time for you to go. But they found a dead Theodore at his apartment. Where is the story headed? What are we chasing? Morgan was silent. He decided to speak the story of silence for the rest of the time when the entire nation went crazy about Morgan's silence. Morgan was kind of upset about the fact that he was hoping for a send-off, but he's being written off with Mills taking the limelight. Morgan decided to drown himself in his books with his friends over booze and belittling some of the political figures who were trying to make news at that point of time. That's when one of the friends proudly said, "Gluttony is a favorite sin of mine." The other said, "Maybe it could be my greed for gems and stones." The other was, "Maybe I could be a sloth because I never bothered to take care of my wife." These conversations began to make sense in his mind, and he started to think, okay, what if this was all not plotted, but they had a purpose? What if these were all not slaughters, but they were Sowmya? What if this guy wants to say something and he's not a monster and he's human? We agree that he's totally insane, but one thing that we know about this guy is methodical, he's exacting, he's systematic, and he is here for a purpose. This theory was convincing for him, but Mills was least interested to listen to this story. And that is when Morgan decides there is one way that I can go forward about this. I believe that he is trying to pay back to the sinner with the sin itself. He is turning the sin against the sinner. And I believe he has 4 more murders to go to complete his masterstroke. Morgan decides to invest several weeks of his life to search down all the books which have been borrowed from the library and think about what could possibly be the reason. And the book which says 7 Deadly Sins by Eric Elman, it points out to Jonathan Dew, who never bothered to return the book after 4 years. So they go down to his apartment, but they open into a Catholic church where there are mountains of books on philosophy and history, but there was no one to be seen. At the end, Jonathan Dew walks into Morgan's home and says, I never knew or I never thought that you would come to my home, but you did. Here I am. I surrender myself to you, but I have not yet finished my masterpiece. I have 4 more murders to make, and I'm going to give you a plot. The plot is you are going to come with me to the outskirts of the city, and we are going to open a parcel. If you don't do this, I'll plead insanity and I'll walk out with free hands. So Morgan, Mills, and Jonathan, who is the murderer, walk to the outskirts of the city and they open up this box. Inside the box are 3 heads. One of a model, and the other is Mill's wife, and the third is that of a female escort. He says that they paid the crime for envy, pride, and also lust. Jonathan decides to call it a day. That is when Mills, who was overcome with anger on seeing his wife's face, decides to shoot himself on the face and say, Jonathan, this is your end. Jonathan dies saying, this is the completion of my 7 deadly sins. I die for wrath, and this wraps the plot. Well, I told you there were 4 of us. This story had 3 people. One was Mills, one was Morgan, and the other was Jonathan. Who is the 4th person? Any guesses? I know I'm running short in time. Any guesses? Who's the 4th person? It's me, the narrator of the story, the teller of the story. When the lady on the Toastmaster site asked me, Akshaya, what is your communication style? What is that you want to take home with you? I said, there is not one of me, there are 4 of me. I am all 4 of the style that you're promising to give to me. I am a direct communicator, most importantly in my relationships. I am very expressive, the storyteller when it comes to making excuses for my Friday night getaways. And I try to seek for detail, and I also try to seek for support. So when Toastmaster asks me what communication style suits you or what style are you, I'm going to say it's not just one or it's not just me. There are 4 of us. It's all 4 tied together that make me walk through this 4-lettered fantasy called life. Thank you.
Wow, Akshaya. What an amazing story. I think Netflix should buy the rights of it for their next production. So now that we have had some great content with great scripts, it's time for some impromptu performances by our fellow stars. It's table topics time. Our table topics master of the day saw the movie 2012 back in school and believed that the year would actually spell the end of the world. I guess her expectations were actually delayed by 8 years because 2020 doesn't seem to go easy on us. But jokes aside, please welcome our table topics master of the day, Toastmaster Sreelekha.
Thanks, Arjun. Yeah, I seriously believed 2012 is going to be the end of the world, and I thought I should somehow get into some ship or at least learn swimming, because in that movie they show that we're going to die by flooding of water. So that was that. Yeah, today I have some interesting topics for our table topic session. There's not really a connection between the topics. It's just a mixed bag. And luckily I'm on the other side and I'm going to pick you guys and be the bad guy in the room. So who wants to go first? Okay.
Just pick someone. That's okay.
Vamshi, do you want to give it a try? You have been the consistent table topic speaker.
That's why you should pick someone else. But, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'll give it a try.
Yeah, so I have numbers 1 to 6.
1 to 6. 5.
5. Okay. So if you have to name your life story after a movie, what would it be and why?
If I want to, okay. That's definitely challenging because you're asking me to Name of my love story. Love story. Love story. Movie. That's okay.
Can do that as well.
Okay. No thoughts. I'm not getting many thoughts on this, but probably I'd like. This is becoming really tough. So I'll not to choose a name. Probably I'll narrate the story to the audience or everyone, and then I'll ask them to choose a name that would define me in a better way. Because and it is, I'm still young. Okay, I'm still 30 right now. So there are many phases of my life. But if you ask me something, then I love to name it as the fourth idiot. After watching movie Three Idiots, you can guess it that way. Okay, that's it from my side. Yeah, probably today is I'm on a. That's okay. Yeah, done. Thanks, Sreelekha.
Thank you, Vamshi. So, any volunteers for the second topic?
Can I volunteer?
Yeah, sure. So, I have 1 to 6 except 5.
2.
2. Okay, you have an interesting situation. You took a sick leave from work to party and you happen to meet your manager at the party. What do you do?
Okay. So the thing is, I'm not going to specifically describe this person, but you all see this person on the screen. So what I kind of understand is, both of us, I mean, though I am a Tamilian, but I strongly believe that I also have a lot of Punjabi genes in me, because I can just hog on aloo paratha all day. So both of us, I believe, are super foodies, and we would like to take this opportunity to divulge into a world where both of us are completely unconscious about each other's existence and what we mean to each other in this real life, and we might go on a Punjabi food spree. I think this can be very well apt for this situation. And since this is like, both of us seem to be party people because both of us decided to step out on a work day, it means that we have some sense of fun element in us which can collide. So I would prefer to have an agenda where both of us have some nice, let's say, let me keep it classy, have some nice wine and talk for some time, and then disappear into some Punjabi food street and load ourselves with lots and lots of Punjabi food. Because when you are going to binge, it's important that you should be guilt-free. And this initial stage of wine indulgence can help us to get into this zone, and the next day we might also take some subsequent sick leaves to pay the price for this day. But I think that should go well, since both of us are doing it. A sin is a sin. I mean, gluttony is a favorite sin of mine, and I think it would also, I mean, I'm not sure if it goes well with the other person, but I think if it is, I think we would try to make a lot of memories on this day out. Yeah, this is all I have. And most importantly, I would also try to know our friends better. So I think we would have tried to get some other people to this party, and I would also like to see if there is some point of commonality that exists. So I think it would be a fun time, and we would get a lot of pictures for Instagram.
Wow, Akshaya, you have a really cool way to deal with it. Any of the guests want to volunteer for the next topic?
After Akshaya, I'll go. Mazahir.
Okay, Mazahir. We have topics 1, 3, 4, and 6. 3. Okay. You went to a restaurant, and when you have to pay the bill, you realize that your phone and your wallet are stolen. The restaurant folks are not letting you go out of the restaurant without paying.
It's the same restaurant where Akshaya's manager and Akshaya met. The day when she actually applied for a sick leave, they both were there. Now, apparently, I know them. And the situation is that they are neither letting me go out or not talk anything. Now, I see a similar faces in the same restaurant and I say, hey, Akshaya, can you help me pay my bill? She looks at the bill, it was about 35,000. She looked at my drunk eyes and she said, Mazahir, how much you really drank? I said, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason somebody stole my phone and my wallet. I looked at her manager and I figured out, okay, maybe this person, because he's a manager, can probably help me. However, even he didn't help. Rather, he's giving me an excuse saying that, oh, I do not have my wallet with me. I was like, poor guy. So what I did, I somehow convinced the manager to come along with me to my house where I have some other cards where I can pay them using those. And this person agreed. He's like, yeah, you look like a nice guy and I think, you can probably do that. So nicely, he drove me till my house and we went there. And now the manager of the restaurant realizes he forgot the card machine. What are we supposed to do? We drove back again with the card that I took from my home and I paid at the restaurant. To my surprise, Akshaya and her manager were still there. And I paid for them too. Thank you. Happy ending.
Wow, that was a nice turn of this story. Sowmya, do you want to give it a try, the next one?
I'm really bad with impromptu, but I will go for it.
Sure. We have 4, 1 and 6.
I'll go with 1.
Okay, so you have to convince all of us here to pay and watch a Swedish movie without subtitles. We have to pay and watch it.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you. So, so I don't know Swedish, but looking at today's session, I think all of you guys are really good actors. I can see Sumedh with his theatrical acting skills and whenever each one is speaking, and even Akshaya is, yeah, everyone's in fact giving me a thumbs up for using the word of the day, which is great. See, I can still see people laughing and yeah, so I think we have good actors in this session. So I think all of you all have to come and watch the Swedish movie, and we have great narrators as well, like Akshaya and Mazahir and many of you all here. So I think we should all watch Swedish movie, just not Desi movies. So yeah, that's about it. And I don't see the green card going, so I'm really not sure. That's it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sowmya. Timer, do we have time for one more? The last slot, who wants to take?
Sumedh.
Sumedh, Akshaya suggests you take that.
There is a reason for it. I'm actually still trying to evaluate her speech. So I'm still trying to make my points here, but sure, I'll give it a try. Bring it on.
You have 4 and 6.
Yeah, 4. 4 of us, right? 4.
What would you do if you were caught sleeping in a meeting, and not a virtual meeting, remember?
Yeah, this is something which I'm pretty used to. Thanks, Ram. But so whenever I am caught sleeping in the meeting, I make sure that I know which meeting I'm sleeping on. So it is not like suddenly I am in a meeting wherein there are people unoblivious of my existence and I'm just sleeping there, snoring away to glory. It is more of I choose to sleep there because I know what is going to happen and I pretty much don't care about what I can give to this meeting. So I do take calculated risks, and if there is something that I want to leave you all with, it is that sleeping is fun, and sleeping in a meeting is more fun, but only if you do it in the right meetings. That is what I have learned from my experiences in the past, and I look forward to keep doing this as long as I'm not caught. and as long as my performance does not get affected. I'm really lucky enough to work in a company wherein it does not matter whether you're sleeping or you're awake as long as the work gets done. And as much as I can do my open eye sleeping, as I have been doing in the past few meets, I'm sure that someday people will realize that and they will take me for who I am, right? So thank you, and back to you, Sreelekha.
Thank you, Sumedh. That's a creative way. Yeah, that table topic session comes to a wrap. Back to you, Arjun.
Thank you, Sreelekha, for such an interesting session with great topics. Now, there will be a link for the best table topic speaker, but I'll ask you guys to vote after the next segment, which is the evaluation. I have heard a lot from this meeting that many of us prefer to go to movies rather than just listening to the critics. But I believe that shouldn't be the case in our meetings. We do need feedback to improve ourselves. And for that, I would like to call upon our GE, Toastmaster, Bhargav.
Well, the movie is almost over. Time for credits and reviews. We started a bit late. We started around 2 minutes late. I mean, even I'm part of that. So yeah, I mean, we are improving. This is better, but I think we should start on time. Our TMoD gave this whole movie a theatrical touch by wearing on his cooling glasses and started off on a really nice note. Let's get on to the speakers. Our first speaker, Ram, it was a really mesmerizing icebreaker, we have to say. He started with a really nice anecdote, and I especially liked his ending. So it was just like a rap. It was like really nice. And then speaker to Akshaya. Akshaya is a really great storyteller. I mean, I was really motivated by her speech today. She had great voice modulation. Though some of the words were not clear, might be we should give it to the network issues and all. And next, the table topic sessions. Table topic, first we'll have to start with the table topic master. She picked up a really nice bunch of topics. And I must say today's table topic participants have set some really nice standards. I think which is like really tough to meet in the coming sessions. Especially Akshaya, who narrated again a really nice hypothetical story. And then Mazahir continuing that story. And then Sumedh, I mean, Sumedh, it was like really good. He was really innovative as well. And yeah, so I'll call upon my team of reviewers to give their opinion. But according to me, IMD 8/10, Rotten Tomatoes 4/5. So I would like to call upon first the timer.
The speech evaluators first.
Oh, sorry. I would like to first call upon the speech evaluators. The first speech evaluator for the day. I'd like to call the speech evaluator for the day, Shreya.
Thank you, Bhargav, for very conveniently just ignoring me and moving on to your tag team. And yeah, let me start with congratulating Ram for finishing his icebreaker. Thank you for letting us know you a little bit more. I would say that there were some things that went really well with your speech, and as usual, some things that you can work on. First, the things that went really well. Can I just say that I loved your speech title, Hello. So simplistic and so connecting with just a single word. It was very warm, and I liked how it sounded. I loved your ending. I mean, I loved your beginning as well as your ending. You started a beginning with an anecdote and kept us wondering for just the right amount of time as to where you're going with this. And then before it was too long, you connected it to yourself. And that was nice. I love the ending too, that you brought the whole thing together back with your title. And that was very nice too. Another thing that was really great about your speech was your control of vocabulary and your diction. You use the right sentence structures throughout. You use some really great words like superfluous ephemeral, advent, and many others I think I will Google later. So these were the things that I think went really well with your speech. But as with every speech, there are some things that you can improve. The first thing that you could work on is your vocal variety and your volume. I think your volume was lower throughout. You could maybe change it as and when you're speaking about different things. You could definitely add more pauses at the right instance, as maybe after a question have a bit of a more of a pause, and as you're going from one part of the speech to another, maybe have more pauses because it was like a continuous flow. The second thing that you could work on is your structure of speech. The chronology was a little messed up throughout because we were going back and forth throughout. We were talking about your music till today, then we went back to your how you started with your work, and it could be a bit more well structured. The third thing is the content. This as an icebreaker. I think you could have maybe a bit more explanation about yourself. You were explaining a lot on technologies, which makes us understand better as to what you're doing, but maybe from your aspect as to what you did through that phase, how you grew, maybe working on what you did, that angle could have been a bit explored further. One way to challenge yourself, I think, is maybe include a lot of humor in a speech. We did see some glimpses of humor today in your speech, and I think you have a good timing there. I mean, you can pull it off with a good straight face. But I think what you need to work on is having the pauses at the right instant of time. Maybe this, if you have a humorous speech, maybe that is somewhere where you could pause at the right time for the right punch, and that would help you improve your speech. In summary, I would like to say that you had a great beginning, a great ending, and your vocabulary was consistent throughout, but the structure and the theatrical aspect of your speech can be improved. That's all I have here. Thank you. Thank you back to Toastmaster. Thank you back to GE Bhargav.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shreya, for that awesome evaluation of the Speaker 1 Ram's speech. I would like to call upon now a second evaluator, Sumedh, to evaluate Akshaya's speech.
Thanks, Bhargav. I would like to certify the speech by Akshaya as UA, adult supervision required. And unlike the Mulholland Drive, Akshaya actually gives a disclaimer that you are not going to understand this for the first 5 minutes, which I really like. To have the confidence to say, guys, give it some time, is a sign of self-confidence. She's aware of what she's trying to do, and that has to say something about the speech. One thing which I would like to point out is Akshaya regales her stories so very well. And people say that she's a narrator, she's a master narrator. She is, I agree. However, she's also good at direct speech. And that somehow gets underrated whenever she starts narrating. One of the reasons for this could be that Akshaya, the narration part of Akshaya's speech is this is pretty long as compared to other people, right? So usually people start with a small anecdote. Akshaya usually paints out the whole imagination, what she has in her mind, using that anecdote, and she narrates everything that she sees in her imagination, the vivid imagination that she has in her brain. So somehow the direct speech component gets a little bit underrated, which is understandable. Now, the purpose of this speech was to make sure that you get to try around and have different tastes. What you did instead was to talk about them while narrating the entire thing. So what can be a feedback here is that you try not narrating, and instead try talking directly from your perspective. Instead of narrating what has happened, you try an active tense. So that is one aspect you can work on. The other aspect is, we had a tale of two speeches today. One was Ram's speech, which wasn't verbose. He took a lot of pauses, but those pauses were really well equipped with the content he had to say. The punctuations were there. In Akshaya's speech, it was verbose. It's just a flow of words, a barrage of words hits you. And I like that way, but you can also try out other ways too. What you can do is you can take some time off, while you're speaking, give the audience some point to just process what is going on and then continue. This will increase the amount of time that you take to speak a sentence, and so will increase the duration of your speech. So you have to cut back on what you have to say. You have to make these minor adjustments so as to keep up and adapt to different formats of speaking which will come further, right? So that is one way you can go forward. The other thing which I have noticed for this is becoming a serial offense now, complete disregard for the timer, like I am doing currently. The complete disregard for timer. Abhijit is the timer for today. If he takes that personally, good luck. Inappropriate joke. So just to summarize, what you can do is you can increase the direct speech component of your total speech, and then you can also try to cut down on the narration part. You can try giving more pauses while keeping up the good work that you do while writing your speech. Your speeches are always well written. If you write a blog, I will probably read it 100 times. But while you're speaking, it does not have to be that detailed and verbose. I think that is one thing that you should take away from this. Otherwise, it was a fabulous speech, and I would not go back and talk about how beautiful it was. That we have done already, right? So this is one straight feedback from Weird Al to Weird Al. Thank you.
That was one really nice evaluation, Sumedh. I mean, you've broken things into pieces and evaluated really nice. I would like to call upon the timer for today's session, Abhijit, to see how we did with time.
Thank you, General Evaluator, Toastmaster Bhargav. Let's start from scratch. We started the meeting 2 minutes late, which is in a way doing better than usual. We generally start like 4 to 5 minutes late. So I think kudos to everybody who joined on time, especially the role takers. That really helped. With respect to the role takers who actually don't have specific in between section time limits that come with a green, amber, and red, but there is a red that I tried to show. Arjun, TMoD, I think you did a phenomenal job today in terms of managing your different sectional times. I think the fact that we are still maybe have some hopes of finishing on time is because your section 2 and section 3 were kind of pretty well balanced. And section 1, you actually had some interesting things to share. So great job on that. If you adaptively took out some time from section 2 and section store the timing of the meeting, great job. If you had less content, maybe for next time you can do a bit more on that, subject to everybody else kind of cooperating to maintain the time of the meeting. Other speakers, GE, I think overall great job. I think GE took around, second section of GE has 3 to 5 minutes, which is split into initial time when the GE calls out everybody and their GE's own speech time. I think Bhargav, you did really well there. Your net time there was around 3.5 to 4 minutes, but it was the initial time when you were calling different speakers. I think you took a lot of time there. Maybe one part where you forgot to call in the speech evaluators first also took some time. So maybe that's one thing you can work on. Table topic master, Sreelekha. I think there's always this dilemma of to ask for volunteers or pick somebody. I think we just take too much time to decide on that. And we can very easily ask one more person to come and speak if we cut down on that time. So one feedback would be maybe you give 10 seconds or so at most for somebody to raise their hand, or else just be ready with who doesn't have roles or maybe have less meaty roles and just start picking them. Now coming to the two speeches, Ram, you were 4 seconds shy of disqualification. So 6:30 is the time after which your speech would have been disqualified. But I think you did a great job to continuously monitor yourself as to where you are. And your speech at the end didn't seem rushed to be in time. So I think just because of that, I think great job. Overall, you did well. On the other hand, Akshaya, I think I have some enough has been said by the evaluator, who himself was overtime, by the way, by quite a lot. But the fact that there are people who really love to talk, and I'm one of them. But there have been speeches where 5 to 7 minutes I've gone on to speak for 11 minutes. This fraternity is very kind, so you will not really see anybody being really too mean on that. But I think that's something you should also not ignore. It's really, really important to be on time, and you were over time by around 2.5 minutes. Your total time was 10 minutes and 6 seconds. So I think Sumedh's point is pretty well valid there to cut down on time. Coming on to the evaluators, Shreya did a brilliant job. You were on time. You were 3 minutes 15 seconds, so you were not disqualified at all. Sumedh, on the other hand, I thought around 3 minute time when you spotted that you were kind of going over time, you would cut it short and be in time, try to be in time. But I think the last stretch kind of continued for a while. Ironically, that was about telling Akshaya not to go over time, and your total time was 4 minutes. So just keep that in mind as well. All the table topic speakers were really good on time. Everybody was around the sweet spot, 1 minute 30 seconds, except for Sowmya, who was waiting for the green card to show up and eventually fell 3 seconds short of that. So 57 seconds on the clock. But other than that, great job, everybody, for whosoever has helped to keep this meeting on time. Let's try to wrap it on time. Back to Toastmaster Bhargav.
Well, that was a really comprehensive yet detailed evaluation, Abhijit. Thanks for that. Most of our speakers have done really well with their time today. I would now like to call upon the AhCounter for today's session, Rahul. On to the screen.
Hi everyone. Firstly, I would like to apologize to Vamshi because I was so busy in answering his question that I actually did not evaluate his essay role. I started with Abhijit, and Abhijit as a presiding officer did not use any filler words at all. But as a timer, he used 5+ hours and couple of I things, which I thought were used as a filler words. Now, one good thing is about Toastmaster Arjun. He has used absolutely no filler words or any kind of crutch words today. Considering his segment is too big, this is a very big achievement. General Evaluator Bhargav, you used around 3+ so and 3+ hours and 1 Rohini, Toastmaster Rohini also used 0 crutch words today. Coming to the first evaluator, Shreya, she used 2 ums and 2 repetitions. Apart from that, nothing. First speaker, Ram, again, used 0 crutch words. Second speaker, Toastmaster Akshaya, also did not use any filler words or crutch words in her speech. Toastmaster Sumedh, as a second evaluator, used 3+ ums and couple of repetitions. Now coming to the table topics, Master, she too did not use any crutch words at all. The first speaker, Vamshi, used 5+ filler words. Akshaya used 1 filler words and 2 hours. I mean, basically 3. And Toastmaster Mazahir has used 0, and that's a very good thing for impromptu speech. Toastmaster Sowmya used 3+ hours and 3+ so, and Toastmaster Sumedh used 3+ hours and other filler words. That's it from my side. Over to the general evaluator, Bhargav.
Thanks for that really awesome evaluation, Rahul. I would like to call upon Grammarian for today's session, Rohini, who is herself a part-time movie reviewer, to review our grammar.
Thank you. Well, yes, ideally, when I wrote my introduction, I said that I don't like watching a movie which is reviewed by somebody else, but I don't do the reviews for anyone else. In Toastmaster, I learned that yes, reviews are very important part of our growing, of improving, and that's the reason why we banded together as Toastmasters. In today's meeting, this was nothing short of a blockbuster for me. I'm using that word the second time in today's meeting because this was vocab galore. It was complete. If I were to be seated in a award function, I think I would be seeing all lovely words flowing, all over the screen. Ram, you are a grammarian's delight or an English teacher's delight. I really loved each and every word that you used, and I couldn't pick a single error that you made in your sentence construction. And Akshaya, individually, I may not be able to talk because I understand that we are we're running a little late on time, and there are some things that I would want to just highlight. I was hoping that I can bring out all the words, but I may not be able to do all of it because it was complete. My notebook is completely filled. Arjun, I really loved the way you said content. Very often I notice that, there's something that people don't use it correctly. Content and content are two different words. Okay, if I have to give an example, the content of this bottle is water and I'm content with drinking it. Did you get that difference? So it's not just the accent that people can use it interchangeably. It is not. It is two different words and it has to be used differently. So there were a couple of incorrect usage wherever you have to say content building, content development, content was used. So maybe that is something we can all learn together. All right. Another one is phone and wallet are stolen. Its phone and wallet is stolen because it takes, because when you use a conjunction between two words, it always takes uh, the preposition of the previous word. Okay, that's something. And when we talk about AhCounter counting, and here when somebody does not use a crunch word, it's a good thing, it's a positive thing. So you may want to say did not use than say used zero crunch word. In terms of English, it's still fine, but then when there is a positive note, you wouldn't want to say it like used no filler words. It's rather did not use the filler words. Okay, those are something that I have made a note. I can't think of anything else. And Abhijit, I really liked when you said shy of, not very many people use those words. These are becoming outdated. So well done on that, all of you. That's my report for today. Thank you, Toastmaster Bhargav.
A job well done. I would like to pass upon the baton now to the TMoD for today's session.
Thank you, Bhargav, for leading this evaluation session. I guess it's time for a very fun segment, which is the award ceremony. And we are not going to waste your time with some Bollywood dance numbers and music performances because we are running short on time. So with that, I'll expect two links to be posted on the chat where we can go and vote for best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topic speaker. So it's over to you guys to start voting. The links are up now. You can take a minute and vote. Shreya and Rahul, may I know the current status of the voting? I guess we are reaching completion time.
We are waiting for 2 more reviews. At least I am waiting for 2 more reviews.
Sure, sure.
Is everyone able to vote? I mean, if someone is not, please let us know.
I have received the result for the best table topic speaker. I'm waiting for the other results as well.
All right.
Okay, so we have the results with us right now for best speaker and best table topic. I think best evaluator is still left. All right, we have that as well. Now, for the first award for best table topic speaker, I won't ask you guys to guess because we are short on time. And the award goes to Mazahir for his wonderful table topic speech. Our best speaker of the day is Toastmaster Ram. And this is a very interesting category because here we have a tie. And the tie is between our timer and speech evaluator, Toastmaster Abhijit and Toastmaster Sumedh.
I disqualified him, so does that mean I get it?
Well, that's for you guys to decide. You can have a trade-off.
Are you sure that you didn't overtime yourself?
I had 3 minutes, so I was probably close to that, but I don't know for sure.
I voted for you, by the way.
All right. So now that we are done with awards, I was wondering, what is a happy ending? What makes it so positive and satisfying? Well, according to me, I am experiencing one right now. But is it because I defeated the antagonist in a final battle? No. Did I win over the love of my life? I wish, but no. Did I win a talent contest and against all odds achieve world fame? No. But what I did was that I was a part of a meeting where everyone played their roles perfectly and we all had fun in the process, because that's what we are in for. With that, I would like to hand over to Presiding Officer for the final address, Toastmaster Abhijit.
Thank you, Toastmaster Arjun. This was a brilliant meeting. And I think it's already been said once by Toastmaster Rohini, our Grammarian. But I think I have to give you some feedback, as in, and our club members as a feedback. I attended a couple of meetings outside, and one as early as last week. There are a lot of good things that people are doing in different clubs. For instance, this timer inspiration I got from their club as well only. But then there are some things that we take for granted, but came out as positives when I attended that meeting and really didn't see that. I think our club does such a brilliant job at applauding every single time there's an exchange of, not stage, but more like here, exchange of a person on the screen who's talking, and we have made it a practice and a habit. I think that's a great, great thing. The most important thing that will ever cause people to come back to a club or a meeting is if it's fun and if it's encouraging. And I think both of those things really happen when we get together and applaud. So please keep that in mind. Don't take it for granted, and let's always continue to do that. The second thing is on preparedness. We have always had hard time getting people to fill all the roles, but by the time the roles are filled, even it might be like 1 hour before, that last person also comes to the meeting completely prepared. Whether it's the TMoD or whether it's a GE, even SAA or anybody for that matter, everybody comes, takes the role seriously and looks at it as an opportunity to, get some stage time, entertain everybody, help everybody learn, at the same time learn something in return. So I think round of applause to everybody for doing that, and let's just continue to do that in that spirit. Coming on to the second thing I want to talk about is just the guest feedback. We have, as I've mentioned earlier, we have had people joining a club who we've known them from a long time now, but I don't want to miss out an opportunity to get some candid opinions on how we've been doing in our meeting. Mazahir, you want to go first?
We'll probably have Grammarian go first. She attended the meeting, and special thanks to her. So
yeah, absolutely. Rohini, well, I was going to keep my vote of thanks for you after Mazahir would have spoken, but let me do it now. I think it's really refreshing to see the way you approach Grammarian role. You actually go ahead and go pick some really, really important points, elaborate wherever needed. But when you know that you don't have time, you cut down really well. I think all of us have struggled with one facet of this or the other. So I think it's just a delight to have you come over here.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I think I missed the last bit, but thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed today's session completely.
Thank you. Well, I would say the same thing. Whenever I think we have found a person who will always be ready to take a grammarian role, especially one role which many people in our club shy away from. So thanks again for coming.
No, you guys are
Mazahir?
really seasoned. You're amazing. I think you have to challenge yourself and simply start taking roles, each one of you. And I can be very critical. Sowmya can vouch for it. I can be really very critical. And today I'm really impressed with. I really couldn't find any mistake except for the ones which I mentioned. Hats off to each one of you.
Thank you. A round of applause for everybody. Mazahir.
I think praises are a part. Okay. I would say if I really want to give a feedback for the overall meeting, I would rather do it as a general evaluator. Please count me in for next week's meeting. I will be the general evaluator of that meeting. So I think it'll be great because it would not do justice. I did not play any role for today, so I wouldn't really know how to do it. Overall, if I look at it, you guys are doing far better than so many other clubs. You guys are toddler at this stage right now. I won't call you baby because it's been some time. You're already distinguished in the dashboard. You're doing good in terms of speeches, role, and everything else. I think it'll be more of a justice if I take up a role of a general evaluator and then give the feedback. This will make more sense then. So please count me in. If it's not yet taken, Abhijit, please consider me. And if it is, then I would love to take some of the role. However, both sides, the speeches were amazing. One thing that I feel is that, as you mentioned, I think everybody is really, they all come prepared to deliver this. Going probably 5-10 seconds minus or plus, it's okay. But if you're just continuing with the thought of delivering your speech and coming to the point, it kind of shows a little lack of preparedness. So I think if maybe a little bit more preparation before delivering a speech will be really nice. Also, I just feel that as what Abhijit said is totally, I'm totally in agreement with him. Guys, start attending meeting outside. You will get to know what you're doing best and where you can improve. So there's a lot of learning happening, right? Just on that note, thank you. And over to you. Thanks, Abhijit.
Thanks, Mazahir. Our roles generally are open for quite until the last day. So I think we have booked you for the GE next week. Thanks for nominating, by the way. So we do have Shubhransh here as well. Shubhransh, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody and give us your feedback?
Hey Abhijit, thanks for the chance. So actually, I have a little problem in the internet connection. So I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it. Especially, I think I thought the activities had stopped actually. So recently, I started checking up reels again, and I thought, wow, I missed so many good topics like travel and like mental while listening. And this topic, and I am myself a theater person. Could not resist coming here and
Shubhransh, I think there is definitely some internet connectivity issue. We got bits and pieces of it, and the fact that you got to know about us through be recently. I would just invite you to many more of our meetings. Feel free to continue to come back as a guest and join more of our meetings. We would definitely love to have you here. One of us will connect with you offline and let you know more about it. All right, the last thing I want to bring up is what I've already mentioned in the email about elections. This current tenure of officers is coming to end by the end of June. We have kind of served this club for 9 months, ever since its infancy, and now it's time to get in more people. I really hope you take some time to read that preachy email and DHC message that I sent. And I definitely didn't make it up at all. It's truly my feelings about how the different officer roles have served me. If I were to just summarize that in one thing, I would just say, unless you are somebody who prepares for everything months and months in advance and is able to really go down and achieve those things, I think you can take your time and think about it and figure out when is the right time for you to take up this role. I have a personal feeling, maybe not branding all Indians in that same or painting all Indians in the same category, but I think many of us have this tendency to continue to look for opportunities. But when an opportunity suddenly comes at the time which doesn't seem appropriate, we really take a step back and think we'll do it at some other time. I would say in general, whether Toastmasters outside, whenever you see an opportunity, just say yes, and then figure out how you want to do it, how you can prepare yourself. This is one more step to do that. The nomination sheet for all the officers has already been given to you, shared with you. Please go ahead and put in your name. If you want to put in your name for more roles, please go ahead and do that by all means. It's going to be a very rewarding experience, believe me. And just go ahead and look at the sheet and put in your name. Next week is going to be our officer elections on 19th. So please attend that meeting at the same time, put in your nominations. All right, last but not the least, start putting and start nominating yourself for more speeches as well. Remember, stage can be physical or virtual, but the show must go on and you need to play a part. So please go ahead and sign up for those roles and those speeches. With that, thank you for attending this meeting. It was awesome fun. See you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.